I started my career as a call center executive, and we were always taught to smile on calls so that the customers can hear your smile. There are amazing voice artists who portray this skill with so much ease, showcasing not only a smile but an entire personality. And one such personality is with me today. Hi, I'm Prashant Uttekar, a learning enthusiast, and you are listening to the Relearning podcast. And today it's a dream come true for me to be in conversation with Mae Thomas, who shall help us audiolize and relearn how this ease comes to her so naturally. Mae is a renowned podcaster who runs a famous podcast titled Maed in India, that is MAED in India. It's one of India's longest running podcasts, which features best Indian independent musicians around the world. Made in India started as a podcast and now it's a full blown organization building podcasts and audio shows. May is a presenter, journalist, a writer, a voiceover artist, along with being a podcaster. Welcome to the Relearning podcast, May, and tell us, how did you make this multi-million dollar organization?
Oh my God. I don't know if it's multi-million and all. But yes, I think I never ever thought that I would be running my own company. It was definitely something that was never on the cards. I was always like, I would work in an organization or I'd be a freelancer. Like that was mainly the thing, like the sort of two routes I thought my career would sort of go down. And it was in the last couple of years that I had kind of made this decision of like starting my own company. And thankfully, like I have a partner that I work with, and I don't think I would have been able to just do this on my own because I don't have that level of expertise to run my own business. So it's nice to always have like someone who you can bounce ideas off of and that kind of thing. So initially the mission was just to keep Made in India, my own podcast, alive. And then I started getting asked to make other people's podcasts because it came from my own experience and the wheelhouse of my knowledge, because I've always been in the audio space, whether it was like radio and now podcasting. So yeah, and I think that's kind of how, and I've been doing is just doing the work that I really enjoy. And I've been lucky enough that a lot of people, whether in the industry or outside, kind of know who I am and what I do. So it's the thing that I think is the most important thing for me is just the quality of work that I'm putting out there. I think that's always been at the forefront of my mind, that like, even if I'm not here to like factory manufacture shows, I'm more like, I'm going to do, even if I had to do like a handful of shows a year, I wanted to make sure that whatever I'm putting out is of good quality, that has an impact, or that comes from a creative idea that's different from what's out there. So I think that's kind of the way my brain sort of like works and plus I also know who I am as a person. I can't split myself up into so many spaces. I'm always like, if I'm going to work on something, I'm going to put my whole self into it. So yeah.
But let's get to that real question that I wanted to check. And I read this in one of the interviews you did recently. And I think recently would be around November. And you said that you can audiolize in your head. So what does this word audiolize mean?
I don't remember saying audiolize, but like I know that the phrase that I use would be like, I can my partner always says about me, I can hear ideas, in the sense of having the ability to, like, if someone tells me an idea for something, I instantly kind of can hear what the show is going to sound like already. And I'll be able to like troubleshoot, go like, this is not going to sound right, this is not going to work, and if you do this, it'll not. And so it's happened to me a lot that like people will tell me an idea and I'll either think it's great, or I'll go, this might work for this but won't work for that, or I'll have some level of like feedback, or I'll be able to troubleshoot what the issue might be. I've had moments where that's held me in good stead, where people trust me enough to go, okay, if she thinks that this is what's going to happen, then I believe her. But 70% of the time, people just don't. They're just like, but no, I think how we're going to do it is going to be okay. And then I cannot even explain to you the amount of times people just go literally right back to what I told them they should have done in the first place. And yeah, it's like I'm not trying to be like I told you so, but it is like, I mean,
Just accept you're the Doctor
maybe.
Strange in the podcasting universe.
It's very genuinely very few people that actually, go, okay, I trust that you think that this is the right thing. So it is, it
Mhm.
absolutely is, because I understand to some extent, having like been in the audio space for so long, what the listening experience is going to be like, or what people are going to infer from it, or what they're going to hear, and or what sounds good, or what makes sense. And there's so much of, people tell me ideas, and
Yeah.
I've been blown away by some people's ideas, going, oh my god, that sounds amazing, I'd love to do something like that. But I've also had equal same space of like people telling me stuff, and I'm like, well, that doesn't really work for these reasons.
Mm.
And some people will take your advice and some people won't. Some things will work and some things won't. And I'm not saying that I know everything. I've had moments where I mean, I do this with my audio engineers all the time. Like, I've had moments where sometimes they're telling me an idea and I
Mhm.
can't figure out what it would be. So sometimes you just have to do it and figure out like whether it works or not. And sometimes I've had moments where I said, "Hey, let's do this," and it didn't
Yeah.
sound as good. And then they've come up with ideas and told me, "Hey, you know what, maybe we should do." So I've had like moments where my producers have had great ideas, or my audio engineers have even better ways of like making something work. But if I'm always trying to find the easiest path to get to somewhere. I'm always trying to find like a way in which we can do something that works. Like, because always about, I have like a very creative bent of mind. So then for me, it's always like, I'm always going in that direction of like, what's going to be different? What's going to sound good? Or what will work or not? And again, I mean, I know you're calling me like Doctor Strange, but like, I wouldn't ever think that I am some sort of like massive fountain of knowledge. All like I myself personally, and I can admit to this, I'm not an audio engineer, right? Like, I do not, like, I have not studied a degree in audio engineering. I haven't done any of that.
Uh-huh.
So for so much of like the things that I might know or want to sort of figure out in my head, I do talk to people. Like, my brother is a sound designer.
Mm.
I have other editors and sound recorders that I work with. So like, I'm always asking them for their advice, like when it comes to like how a show should sound or how we should work even, because
Mm.
sometimes the way in which they receive feedback might be better if we did it another way. So my thing is that like, I'm always also trying to talk to more and more people so that I can understand how to do things better, because I don't think
Wow.
any of us know everything.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, obviously, I mean, well, some of the best musicians were not trained, so to say. So there you go. And thanks for your modesty of not accepting that cape of Doctor Strange, but you
Bring the
do see
cape
future.
right back.
Okay, there's one confession that I have here. So anyone
Mm.
who has listened to the older episodes of Cyrus Says, has this that bring back hashtag bring back May. I am the originator of
That's
that hashtag.
crazy. Are you serious? You're
I'm
the
not.
origin of hashtag bring back me?
May March 2018. Exactly, yes. And that's why I said this is dream come true to have you
You
on the
remember
show.
the exact date? Oh,
No, I'm just
wow. So
smart. I
March
just Googled it
2018, you were
yesterday,
like,
actually. No, I literally had to check the date. My memory is very bad. I'm forgetting my own name here. But yeah,
wow.
there you go. It's March
You're the
2018.
origin of hashtag bring back me.
Bring back
That's
me. And
amazing.
it's still alive. I'm so excited that even people who listen to this shows since the end, they want me to be back. Someone had a great idea of
Yeah.
getting all the producers of Cyrus Says and do a podcast, and that's amazing. And I think
I think
I
that's
should
an
talk to Amit.
amazing idea.
Yeah.
You absolutely should. And like Amit, I mean, even though I'm not with IVM anymore, like Amit and I are still friends. Like
Yeah.
I genuinely had started in this space because of him. And he did have, and I think still does have, a great vision. I
Yeah.
would love to get back on Cyrus Says, and also to have all the old producers. What fun that would be. It would be such a cool conversation. And I just,
Superb.
because like I said, one of the things that was such a big part of being in this podcasting space was that Amit had always said this, and I also really um agree with him, that like we should all support each other, like as like podcasters, we're all in the same space, like featuring on each other's shows and
Yeah.
being able to support like ourselves, like each other, like in this space that's still growing, I think is really important. And so, yeah,
Oh,
man, I'd
if
be
since we are
thrilled to be on Cyrus's show. It'd be so fun.
since we're on the topic of praising Amit, if if it wasn't for Amit, this podcast would not have been out.
I'm glad. I think he's been part of many people's origin stories. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Another one is, in the entire year, I have seen such a rise in the number of podcasts that have come up. And so to say, there are many
Mm.
free platforms who are promoting, like Anchor is doing. It's freeware, and you could just upload your voice, and it's out there. Is that a good sign? Is there a flip side to it? What is your take on it?
I'm so for me, I guess like it's exciting because I am in a space that like I always am looking forward to like seeing new people doing new things. And the the stuff that I really want to see is just people being more creatively bold, like really going out and doing something different, right? Doing something that is out of the ordinary, even in the podcasting space,
Yeah.
whether it's, that isn't just the format of, and nothing against you because I do the same thing, but just sitting in a studio and interviewing someone, right? Why not do, and like I said, we have the ability to do so many different kinds of shows and tell different stories
Yeah.
and work with different people. And I think that you can tell those stories in many different ways,
Yeah.
right? And I think that needs to happen. I think there need to be different kinds of voices in this space too. Whether it's people with who are differently abled or who are come from different castes and different religions or different whatever. So I do think those voices need to be heard. I do think that stories need to be told well and told better.
Yeah.
And I don't think, and I've always been a little off center. I'm not really someone who you would consider mainstream.
Hmm.
I've always been sort of someone who'd like to buck the trend or who wants to sort of like, I will not take the sort of beaten path.
Yeah.
And I always like that because I always want, like, it's this thing of people saying the word niche, which is such a
Hmm.
taboo word. And I wouldn't say that I was niche or not, but people have called me that. And I'm like, what is niche? I was like, there is a guy who is eating a chicken leg piece and he says chicken leg piece and he has millions of people. There is
Yes.
a girl in a who does backflips and she has
Yeah.
like a massive TikTok following. Like what is niche? Like you can't
Yeah.
define what that really is. And I understand that language is a barrier. I understand there's so many of these things, right? You can say that like doing a podcast in Hindi will literally double your audience from it being an English podcast. But then you're also alienating a very large portion of South India. So
Yeah.
my thing is that like what like I think that podcasting is about telling stories and building communities, right? And I think those two things are what's important. And so I think I think there's very far we need to go because there is more and more content that's coming out. And I do think that we have the ability to do more. I don't think this is like, I
Hmm.
think we're just like literally tip of the iceberg right now.
Very interesting take. And so basically, you're saying keep them coming.
So this is also, so just this morning, my partner Sean sent me this 8-minute YouTube video where Joe Rogan was talking and he said something so interesting and he was like, I'm just a guy with a mic. He's
Hmm.
like, I didn't advertise. I didn't buy a billboard. Like you look at these huge media conglomerate networks and the size of my audience competes with their audience, which is crazy to think so.
Yeah.
But he just kept at it. He just kept doing what he was doing. More and more people liked what he was doing, were interested in what he was saying and what his guests were saying. And
Right.
he built that. And I mean, obviously, Joe Rogan is like one sort of like
Yeah.
very far example.
Yeah.
But it's still interesting to understand like how you can build your audience in a
Yeah.
way that might not necessarily be mainstream. So I think that you have the ability to get better, because like that's another thing that he pointed out, that you start doing this and you get better and better at it. Like the more stuff you do, the better you get. So like I wasn't like this good, and I don't even think I'm that good. I think I have the ability to be articulate and funny and have a great conversation with people. That's been my forte. But I still think I can get better at it. I would love to be able to like speak my mother tongue, which is Malayalam, and then I'll have my own Mallu podcast. Like one day,
You
my
should.
ambitions are many.
What does audio mean for you?
Um, I think for me, it means intimacy. I think the thing that stands the audio medium out from a lot of other medium is that you're literally in someone's ear, right? It's so personal. It's not like this podcast. It's not like you're sitting in a cinema and listening to a podcast. It's not like you're sitting, you are always that your headphones are inside your head, like in your ear, sorry. It's so close. It's like they're literally sitting next to you. And you feel like you have this sort of companion. And I think I've gotten that sort of impression having worked in radio for a long time, because you are, whether you're a morning presenter or an afternoon or in the evening, you're just like this companion for someone who's riding back home or who's on their way to work. And in the same way, I think podcasting is just the same, is on demand rather than being a broadcast medium. And so I think you also have that chance to not only have that same intimacy, but it's like you're listening into conversations, you're able to learn things differently, consume information. I mean, there's so many memes and jokes about the fact that when people talk about, I heard this on a podcast once, and like half their knowledge is from podcast listening, because you're able to convey and communicate certain things in simple ways when you can explain it. I also feel like the audio medium, you have the ability to communicate, whether you have the ability to read or write, you can listen, right? I think oral tradition is also something that is acceptable around the world. I think it's very easy to be able to, you listen to your parents telling you stories, you listen to them sing to you. So I think that goes across humanity, that to be able to hear is, I think that's sort of like what audio kind of means to me, being able to be intimate with the person that you're talking to.
What a point. It's amazing what it means to you. What is that one thing that you've relearned about yourself?
Oh, that's such a good question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that. Relearned, right? Oh my gosh, that's a really tough one, because I feel like I'm learning all the time.
That's
but
perfect.
I guess we learned, I don't know. I mean, all of us in some way have been hit very brutally by what happened in 2020. And I think for so many people, whether you ran your own business or you worked in a company, or it's kind of wound back time, I think, literally. So when you say relearn, you feel like you had to go back to what am I doing with my life, and is this really something that I want to do, and am I pursuing it the way that I really want to do it, or have I just been on this train that I haven't really got off? And I don't know if like relearning in terms of like skill, but I feel like there was some level of reassessment maybe. And I think all of us have gone through that, of where we've wondered, is this the path? Like my grandfather always said, don't always go down the right path. So like that, like my grandfather's words weirdly enough rang in my head, of like, is this the right path? Am I doing this because I've been chugging along all this time and just been reacting, or is this really something that I want to do, and do I want to pursue this to my fullest? And not that I was going to do anything that wasn't podcasting, but I think it was just like, it's many things. It's like how I'm pursuing, what my goals are for even my company, for myself, for like whatever. And so you really start to wonder if is this the right thing that I want to do? And I think, like I said, I think 2020 and the pandemic was just this massive sort of like shakeup and a huge reality check, if not anything else, I think.
Oh,
I also,
that's
there's
yeah.
one thing that I have to say about the pandemic that I found that Veer Das had said. There was an interview that he did with Lily Singh. And in the interview, he said that as a comedian, he was like, this is a moment in time that I experienced where every single human being in the
Together.
world
Yeah.
was going through the exact same thing
At the same
literally
time.
everyone's going through the same thing at the same time. And he's like, I don't know if this would ever happen again, but it's crazy to realize that the whole of humanity was going through this one thing, and all of us have that like one thing in common. And so yeah, it kind of really, really gives you perspective on like how you view the world and what's going on, whether it's in your tiny little bubble or the whole world. So yeah.
Nice. If you have to cut to me, who've been always in a medium, or most of the time in the medium of audio, what were some things that you enjoyed back then when you started, vis-a-vis what do you enjoy now?
So I have to admit, and this is the thing that I would probably say that I miss only doing my own show. Like the
There you
fact
go.
that I make so many other people's shows and I make so many other podcasts for other people.
Anna?
I enjoy that because because that's my expertise, right? I'm really good at making podcasts or making shows or, so that stuff is part of like what I build my business with. But in actuality, I really love doing my own show. Like that's the fun part. Like I get to go into the
Exactly.
studio. I'm the
Yeah.
honest host because I've always done that. I've always been the person who was making my own show. That was the only thing I had to consider. And so I would only be thinking about all the cool things I do for my show and what am I going to do tomorrow and like who am I going to interview and what am I going to talk about. That was the fun stuff. And it always will be. It's not like I'm not doing that now. I still am. Like I went back into the studio um, 2 weekends ago, I think, basically at the end of January. And it was my first time going back into the studio. And it just, I felt like I was starting all over again. It was so weird. I was like, God, how do no, I don't hold the mic. Okay, fine. So it was literally, I had this, I had that I needed training wheels on, but it was like I was restarting something, I was like, oh
Nice.
my God, it's like you're starting an old car, and it's like making these weird noises. And it was kind of like that. And so I felt like that going back into the studio, hosting again, and it felt great.
Yeah.
And it fueled my batteries. It really did. But yeah, it's like the thing that I love the most is actually just making my own show. And I might sound
Nice.
like silly and maybe like, I don't know, self-involved, but oh my God, it's the thing that brings me joy. Of
Yeah,
course,
it
it's my
does.
show. It's the thing that I've made, right? Like
Yeah.
I've created this and it is molded out of me kind of thing. And so yeah, you're always going to enjoy the thing that you're making. So yeah.
I like that answer because it's so relatable, right?
Thanks.
I'm going into the rapid fire round. The questions are rapid. I hope the responses are rapid. What you win is
I'll
no
do my
hamper.
best. Great. Good to know.
That's a
You
motivation.
win
There you go.
nothing.
You win nothing. Of course, whenever we meet, that first drink is on me. I hope that's okay.
Oh,
Tea, coffee,
thank you.
chai,
That's very
anything,
kind of you.
coconut water will go all out. Right. So, first one, what's been the most awkward or embarrassing moment during an interview?
Oh my God. Okay. So I was interviewing this guy called Raginder, who's a violinist.
Uh-huh.
And people used to call him Violinder, but he's really good. And
Uh-huh.
I met him through another friend of mine who's a rapper. And I loved his music. And he'd featured on like Vidya Vox's like sort of cover
Uh-huh.
of a song and things like that. And he was putting out his own music. And I always start my interviews with trying to understand from people their origin story. So like when did your
Yeah.
relationship with music sort of begin is how I start my interviews. And so I joked with him saying, let's go right back to the beginning. Let's talk about your mom. And then he's like, well, my mom's not here anymore. And then I was like,
Oops.
oh, but he knew that where I was coming
Hmm,
from was
hmm,
from
hmm, hmm.
a space of comedy. So he said that, but he kind of took it on the chin and he laughed it off. But he also
Yeah.
talked about how his,
Hmm.
he's like, actually, I say this, but like my mother was actually a huge influence on like music in my life. And so he was able to play off that. And that's because he was genuinely a great guest. But yeah, I was like,
Sweet.
oh no. I was like, I'm just going to leave. No. But yeah, I'm sure I've had many more, but
Yeah.
this is a rapid fire. The first thing that I thought of was
Okay.
interview with
You're doing good. You're doing good. Okay, second one. Now, if time travel was possible, which era would you go and why?
Era, like in the world or in my life?
It could be future, maybe not your life before that as well. Yeah.
I don't know. I think I can't, because I have absolutely no reference. Like I only have my actual real life reference is only my own life. So I'd probably go back to my college years. They were so fun. I'd go back to my college years again and live them. I live all of those like 4 years again. That would include my undergrad, my master's.
Where was this?
I was in the UK. I was in a place called Cheltenham University of Gloucestershire, and then I was in Cardiff for my master's. So I would definitely live all my college years again because I had the best time. I just felt like I took advantage of so many more opportunities then, I think, or maybe I noticed them more. But yeah, as I said, if I had to go back in time, I'd go back in time into my own life.
Fair enough. Favorites. Let's do favorites. Favorite book.
Yeah. Favorite book. I'm picking one out of all books. Okay, I can tell you my favorite book right now.
Yeah.
So the book, and this is only because I reread it again, and I really love this book. It's called A Handbook for My Lover by Rosalind DeMillo.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a really nice book. So this is my favorite book at this moment.
Got
I'm not saying that it's my favorite book of all time, but yeah, right now, this was a book that I read that kind of like moved me.
Fair. Let's continue the series. Favorite movie?
Favorite film I think of all time might be Princess Bride. That
there you
was
go.
like one of my favorite movies. I could watch that film a million times. I'm still in love with it.
Favorite series?
You said favorite TV show? I'm currently watching it right now for the millionth time. Gilmore Girls.
Okay.
Love Gilmore Girls.
The tough one. Favorite artist right now at this moment, top of your mind?
Favorite artist right now? Okay, I'm obsessed with this guy called Moses Sumney, his voice just melts me.
Okay. Favorite podcast, except and besides the Relearning podcast, of course.
Thank you. Of course. One of my faves. My favorite podcast at the moment, and I know this is going to be ridiculous, but I'm listening to a lot of Three Things. And not just because my brother produces it, but it's
it's in the family, I just think.
Family. Only because I've just been listening to that nonstop. So every day I wake up in the morning and I'm listening to Three Things. And
it's amazing.
It's it's so informative. I just feel like it's like my morning newspaper. That's what Three Things is for me. So I always, and then obviously there are other shows that I listen to weekly. Three Things is like my daily show that I listen to. And there's other shows. So I have, I listen to Every Little Thing, which is another favorite of mine by Gimlet. And then another one that I listen to on the regular. Oh, this is my guilty pleasure. I listen to this show called Girls Gotta Eat, which is like my own personal. But Three Things. Okay. Yeah. Three Things is like at the top because it's a daily show. I literally do listen to it daily. So yeah, Three Things is definitely up there.
Right, Mae. Thank you so much for being on the Relearning podcast. This just enriches the value, and you've just added multiple stars to my show. So thank you so much for doing this. It means hell lot.
Thanks, Prashant.
Thank you, Mae. This is amazing. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.